Hello, everybody. Thanks for joining for the IMPL 2020 live session. We're going to have a very, very interesting, interactive session, which I'm sure we've been getting so many feedbacks from so many of you. We're all eagerly waiting for this topic. How to beautify a singing voice. Voice pa, I call it, because Carnatic music and Hindustani music both has sa and pa. So you can take it that way. But how to beautify our singing. So that is going to be discussed by a panel of very, very eminent set of individuals who have joined us. They're all very, very highly proficient. It'll take me a long time to introduce each one of them. I'll quickly introduce each one of them and then get into the topic and see how we're going to cover it. I know it's going to be a huge topic for us to cover in a span of 1.5 hours or 1 hour, 15 minutes. We'll also take in a few questions here and there to make it, participatory from all of you. Without much ado, let me go in to introduce the senior most person in this panel, who is still probably one of the most fittest and youngest in terms of fitness, the yoga exponent, SRIDHARAN ji. Welcome, sir. It's a pleasure inviting you to this session. A yoga exponent and a senior most teacher of Krishnamachari Yoga Mandiram. So he's been training so many musicians. In addition to training all the other people, he's in the board of most of the programs, including the Ministry of Ayush, the Yoga Certification Board, and he's also an yoga expert in WHO. And many other, he has traveled far and wide. I can go on talking about him, but most important thing is he is so closely connected with music and also with musicians. So that's what brings us to getting him for this session. So wonderful having you, sir. Pleasure.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
That you could make time for this. Next, we're going to have with us another expert from he's a voice coach. If I call him a musician and a voice coach, I think it'll be more appropriate. He is an international opera singer who has sung for almost 3 decades. And he's been training so many singers. If you take so many shows in Broadway, he's trained almost all the top celebrities and actors, actresses, singers, whatnot. And his experience he's going to share with us and make this session far more interesting. I would also like to say that he is from New York, and in that process, with the COVID and other things, he is one of the persons who has battled the COVID. And being a singer, we all know what it is, this pandemic is all about. So, having him here share all his beautiful aspects of how he has worked with the musicians will be a treat. We also have with us Pandit SANJEEV ABHYANKAR ji. Pandit SANJEEV ABHYANKAR ji is another fascinating musician. I have known him for so many years now, and every time I see him, he is extra special as a human being and as a wonderful musician. He is a student of none other than the legend Pandit Jasraj ji. SANJEEV ABHYANKAR ji now is an institution by himself. He has been doing so much of work in the sphere of Hindustani music, and also he is an expert in devotional aspects also. He's a playback singer also, if I can say. He sang for a few movies, but more than that, he's a celebrity. By no means you can quantify that. So welcome, SANJEEV ABHYANKAR ji.
Pleasure.
Then we also have with us another genius young maestro, KUNNAKUDI BALAMURALIKRISHNA, a child prodigy who has blossomed into a fine Carnatic musician, and a musician whom I would say is a beautiful balance between understanding what he does and also executing it in the right way. He is already gifted, but he knows that the gift is not by any freak. He has gone through some difficulty on his own voice, and he has come back, bounced back so strongly, and he's going to share some very, very special tips to all our young singers. And I'm sure to also professional singers who are waiting to know more. I think when I'm going to talk about the voice, let's go into the subject itself. When I'm going to talk about the voice, I would like to first say that, it's a very intriguing thing. It's a very wonderful apparatus, that we have. It's a gift that we can understand for ourselves, that we're able to create so many things, and each voice is unique in terms of quality. And I would say that the quality of your voice in terms of pitch, volume, and tone is determined by the size and shape of the vocal folds and the resonating cavities. That's why we have people with different voices in the world. Today, we're going to discuss some aspects of what it takes. There are students at different levels, there are performers. So each one of us, we might be the best singer in the world, but we still have a daily voice issue. We still have to go through a lot of things like the warm-ups to mental setup, the emotional, psychological balance. The disorders could be anything. Sometimes it's psychological, sometimes it could be physiological, like somebody could have a nodules problem or laryngitis or anything, tonsils, to anything that could affect. You would have a nasal septum deviation, to any of those things. We are not going to go in too much into the medical side today, as much as we're going to go into the musical side and the fitness side. So the overall, and we are also going to look at the differences in the layering of thinking from a student perspective and the transition to a performer, what a performer does. And with constant use, being a performer and singing in different conditions, how does a performer maintain the voice? So one is about maintenance, one is about problems, care, cure, management, everything. So voice will throw up so many different aspects, which all we are going to discuss. We're also going to discuss about the issues which are common parameters, if I can call them as common parameters to all forms of singers. Any singer has to have certain basic things like stamina. How does one build on a stamina? Whether you are, whatever style of music, whether it's a Carnatic singer, Hindustani, Western singer, jazz, pop, playback, or film music, any form of music, you will have certain common parameters like stamina, range, modulation, fluency, expression, pitch perfection, to many other aspects of enunciation, pronunciation, and the most important thing, how can I make my tone beautiful? So those are the aspects that we're going to work. We all will have certain unique qualities. So let us also understand that whatever these experts are going to give us are general tips. You will also have to start working on your own unique qualities of your voice, which they will be able to guide you from their perspective of their individual experience as to how they have worked. And that they're going to share, which is going to be magical. And of course, we're going to have Sridharan sir give us, every one of us are so excited about to know how we can improve our breath control as a singer and so many other aspects of being fit. Fitness, a lot of people think that it's good if you have just your singing voice in good shape. It's not that. So let me remind you that singer can be affected by every single thing that we do. We don't realize it many times. While we sing, in fact, when we go to a studio, we'll realize that even if we sip a glass of water, the tone changes. Only a sensitive equipment can find that out. So there are so many such qualities that comes out. And to also be a performer, Sridharan sir has worked with so many musicians. So I would like him to, first of all, talk about some of the aspects that he is doing in terms of, sir, let us get into first how you started your work and what you think is a common problem that you see when musicians come to you and how do you address them?
Thank you, Shashikiran. And thanks everyone to be who are with me here. Well, it is very interesting, and it's a chance that I have been occasioned to work with a lot of musicians, both vocal as well as other instruments and all that. Um, Let me quickly come to the point. First, number one, we must know that you are talking about singer, so I will use the word singer mostly because let us keep it to singer now, not the other. Singer is first a human being. That is to be understood. Number one, the singer is a human being. Now, that's a difference between a singer and an instrument. The same music comes from an instrument, but that is different. He's a human being, and in ancient India, the human being is divided into 5 segments: Annamaya, Pranamaya, Manomaya, Vijnanamaya, and Anandamaya. I tell you, it will take millions of years before the universe comes to understand these segments and put it. Already, in India, because of yoga, we are getting into it. The segmentation is not there. It is whole, Maya. It is filled up with everything. So first, Annamaya. Maya means mayat, that which is nourished by Anna, food, our body, physical body, which we are able to see. Pranamaya, the most important part for us, that is nourished by the prana. Manomaya, whatever you learn, it goes there. All your swaras and all there in Manomaya. Now, Vijnanamaya is how Shashikiran is singing differently from Balamurali. That is Vijnanamaya. Anandamaya is ultimately what you are enjoying and what you are making us to enjoy as somebody who is watching and hearing. All these segments will have to be in full operation 100%. So what I have found is the problem is different for every individual. There can be 10 people whom I may be seeing over a period of time, and I find all might have come with the same problem of some voice issue, but the problem, we call it as a cause and effect. In yoga, the way to do things are, we find there is a way called vyuham, heyam, hetu, hanam, upayam. First, we don't immediately jump. Oh, I know, voice is a problem. I will do that. No, I will ask somebody to come. Please come. I will ask the person. I will see the person for about 1 hour. After taking all the details, I will ask the person to sing and even sometimes record it. I will ask the person to see the body completely. So first, foremost, every one of us are different. Profession may be same, you may be singing the same, but we are all different. So we come with something like a template at the physical level, at every level. That is like a template. That is like a modern day computer. You have got a base. In fact, when you get the computer, it comes with the files nowadays. Now we have come with files. So this is what we call as vasanas, etc. at every level. So I will first examine the person completely, and so we have to look at every aspect of it. A small physical level problem might even affect a voice. The voice is okay, everything is fine, but the person is suffering from a low back pain. I just want to, please tell me when I should stop, because how many minutes I have, you have to tell me. I can even come around, and I don't want to.
Yeah, we'll have in 2-3 sessions. We'll keep the answers fairly short,
Yeah,
so that we can get more rounds.
Okay, I'll finish in 2 minutes, 2-3 minutes. I'll finish it quick. Okay, because I need to share that. You are thinking about voice, and you are talking about voice, but how many of us know that all of you know most of the people suffer from low back pain and knee pain? You can ask me a question: how can low back pain and knee pain address my voice? It affects your voice, because the moment your body is not synchronized properly, and you are not able to sit, you force yourself into that, already your breathing system will be affected. It has to open up when you want to say. Later, if you give me, when you are going to ask me to talk about it, I will say the breathing system, how it works and all that. So right from starting from the physical aspect, all the panchamayas will have to be addressed. I'll stop here so that I'll get back again when you are going to ask me to do. I think it should be a good introduction.
Wonderful, sir. Wonderful. I think it's wonderful to know that. We'll come back to that, some of those aspects. I would now like to go briefly to Neil and welcome him. Neil, I would like to ask you, we all hear a lot of things, like, as a singer, when we started learning and we had started performing, most of the musicians, we were only governed, in Indian music at least, we were governed more by the musicality. So we had music teachers. We never had voice coaches. We don't have a concept of voice coach. I never heard that term. Till, very recently, in the last few years, we have been hearing those terms. So for many singers, it is more imitative. We have learned from the gurus and it's more imitative. So from that, certain aspects, we have picked up very, very good musical aspects, but sometimes we also pick up the mannerisms. And some of those may not work for us, some of those work for us. Then when we go and we hear a voice coach say that, you're not using your entire diaphragm to get your breathing in or your throw in. So singing, you're not using your open throat. What is open throated singing? For what is the difference between that and shouting, for instance, or abuse? So how do you balance it? Open throated singing, a lot of people think that's not open throated singing. So how do I use my vocal space and also use my diaphragm? So if you can demonstrate some of those with some exercises, that might help some of the singers, feel better. So you can show, I've seen you do some wonderful exercises, even just some basic vocal warm-ups to start with.
Okay.
You can demonstrate that everybody can do.
Yes. So should we do that right now? Yes. Yeah. So I think typically the feeling of open throat, I like to say that the muscles are passive in the neck. Right? If we're using the muscles of the neck to propel the air or to create the sound, we are stopping the natural vibration of the vocal folds, and we are actually squeezing our sound. So most of us are singing without training. Most of us are singing we are yelling most of the time. The muscles are in that position, right? So typically, when I begin working with someone, I am thinking about how can I get you to feel the muscles here are open and to feel that the neck is wide, right? To get a feeling of what I think is open throat, I would use this exercise. So I'm blowing air into my cheeks, singing somewhat on a hum. You'll feel the expansion of the muscles in the neck, and this is open throat, right? The idea of open throat is to allow the air to pass through the vocal tract without interference of the muscles, right? So typically I use this a lot. I don't know if you can hear the demonstration, but yeah. Also, lip trills are helpful. You want to pay attention to the muscles in the back of the neck as well. Often we are squeezing here, and as the other gentleman said, lower body connection is also very important. And if you're having pain there, that has to be addressed first, right? We can't sing in that position. I think in terms of breathing, that it is a very natural breath, much like you would breathe just for speaking. It should be that automatic. The challenge of the singer is to control the flow after you have the inhalation. You control the exhalation, right? And those muscles are the muscles of the rib cage and the abdominal muscles, right? The diaphragm does move the air, right? But it is dependent on the interaction of the abdominal muscles and the muscles of the rib cage, right? So I know people say frequently, sing from the diaphragm, but I would say sing from your whole body. Let the entire body be a part of the process, right? A good way to feel the relaxed breath, if you question your, am I taking the inhalation correctly, is perhaps to just lay on the floor. Breathe through the nose a few times, because when we breathe through the nose, we're very relaxed in the neck, right? And allow yourself to feel the expansion of the rib cage. I think most people talk about rib cage feeling this way, like to the sides, but I think more important to feel this way, up and down. And if you're laying down, you'll have a sense of that. All right. Not to feel also in the breath that you are feeling at capacity every time. It is not important for you to get full of air every time you sing. It is only important that you get enough air to sing the phrase that you need to sing most immediately, right? So if we take too much air, we are going to ask these muscles again to help us control the air, because we actually are never going to use all of that, right? So feeling of pulsing those muscles, and to really not only just think about diaphragm, but abdominal muscles, right? To remember also that we're talking about the front of us, but also the behind us, right? Those muscles are more important. They are stronger to help us move the air and maintain a steady airflow in our singing. So if you allow the air through the nose, you will probably be able to find even immediately a release of the air. And I don't know, people, if the idea of the voice cracking or breaking is an issue. So typically it is because the body is in a position of resistance, or the muscles are tense, right? To pay attention to what the body is doing when you are doing the where do you feel anchored in your sound? Should feel below the rib cage, right? Into your abdominal muscles. If you're sitting, I think it's easier to feel it, right? Standing up, we need other muscles to stand erect, and so we don't always find it. To also get the release of the air should be very easy, much like sighing. These we call them in voice practice, we call them sirens. I don't know if that makes sense, right? But you can hear the similarity in the sound, right? You'll feel the connection, right? I think that the concept of diaphragmatic singing is it creates a feeling that the diaphragm must be very active, right? And I think that creates a lot of tension in people who sing, right? The diaphragm, it extends downward when you take a breath, and as you're losing air, it comes back up. That's really all it does, right? It is assisted by the lower abdominal muscles and resistance in the rib cage to balance the airflow. If we are locking that process because we are trying to sing with the ribs, really, we're stretching and trying to use our diaphragm, right? We are locking the motion of the diaphragm. So I think that generally we need to think about singing as being more passive or much more subtle. Even in the case of trying to emit or to convey emotion, right? Whatever our interpretation of the song is, right? To feel more passive about it and not force the sound. Do you need more exercises?
We can come back to some more exercises in a few minutes.
Okay.
So we'll have others speak, and then we'll get back to some more exercises.
Okay.
Of course, we're going to do a lot more exercises.
Okay. Yeah. I hope.
But that was very insightful.
Yes. Yeah.
Now I'm going to move on to SANJEEV ABHYANKAR ji. So welcome, first of all, and then I want to talk to you about can you share some of the basic vocal warm-ups? Like in Hindustani music, we do a lot of exercises. So first of all, in Hindustani, you do a lot of sustaining on notes.
Yeah.
Right?
Holding
so how do you work? What is the process? What do you think, you do to keep your voice? As a musician, what have you done? And what do you advise? Some of the aspects, we'll get back to more.
Yeah. It's very, very simple and it can be covered quickly. Very simple, basic. But just as you, in your question only, you mentioned that holding of the notes. So every musician takes some raga. In our gharana or our system, we take Rag Bhairav, 7 notes. As a practice rag, I practiced for 10 years this technical practice in the beginning. When my voice changed, I was a child prodigy. So as a prodigy, I used to sing like a ready-made musician when I was 12, 13 years old. So all the aspects were absolutely ready from last birth. For this, I never did not need any practice. This used to come when I was 13 years old. But when my voice changed as a adolescent boy, then it started shaking. And of course, from a lady's voice to a gent's voice change. Then, so I was 15 years old at that time. Then I practiced the way I'm going to demonstrate. Just like keep every note completely full length. So each and every note from lower octave to higher octave, you keep a hold to have a control over that note, complete sustenance till the end. And another way of doing it is modulate in and out. So keep a hold on knot, reduce it, open it up as much as possible, and try to have a longest possible holding. So you are used to your breathing expands as much, because in our music we keep always keep on holding the notes, and we elaborate also most of the times, like so many times, as most of the people know, that we take a note and then complete that monodharma, or that creative part. So we
Sanjeev ji, sorry to interrupt, Sanjeev ji. Can you be a little louder?
Louder?
You're not fully audible. Yeah, a little bit louder.
Okay. So did you listen to what I sang? Okay. So what I mean is holding of notes, because most of the elaborations keep on happening spontaneously. So we need to have that full capacity breath already taken inside, so I can decide when to stop, when to not. So because everything we are singing is spontaneously, it's not fixed, so I don't know what next I'm going to sing. So it can be ah, next might be ah, the next might be bigger ah, next might be ah, 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 ah. So next might be so I have to be ready with my full capacity breath most of the times, until sometimes I know that I'm going to sing a small phrase. There, as Mr. Neil said, that you need not take full breath every time, because at that time, it's absolutely right. At that time, I know that I'm going to sing. It's only small single phrase. So that time, I don't take that full breath. But when I don't know what is going to come, it is better to have everything ready, because if I miss one cycle of 16 beats, da din din da din da din din ta tak din din da. If I miss this beat, one cycle where I'm going to catch that my next what do you call it? That picking point, we call it. Like in our music, we have that picking point. 9th beat, I'll be finishing that. If I lose that 9th beat, then I have to have that spare reserve of air inside, where I can complete full another cycle. So whenever I finish my tan, most of the times I have one more cycle left. Unless I'm so much confident that I will be 100% landing on that 9th beat, then sometimes I stretch it to my last. But when I'm not sure what is going to happen now, I always keep one cycle of breaths reserved. So in our kind of music, that full capacity of breathing habit is very important and very essential. But Shashikiran, what your question was, so the practice mainly is holding of notes, not in every raga. Some people take it like Kalyani, they take Yaman and they do a holding in that. In our style of our Gharana, our school of thought, we take Bhairav, so those stay one notes. Then we know, and after that, we do it in all the 3 octaves, that holding of notes also. Because we use all the 3 octaves for improvisation. So then whatever, in a way, within a simple format, whatever you are going to use, practice it. So right from the word go, I was taught that you have to continuously use the 3 octaves. So in practice, I had to continuously use the 3 octaves in practice also. So I also be holding lower pancham, madhyam, gandhar. You might not hear it with this format, but like the that also I holding. So in practice also, so if I used to practice, like take a full breath at how many tans you are going to do in one. So like 20 cycles. So do as much as you have, then leave, then take the next one. So we also do a lot of sargams, lot of tans, lot of the patterns, different patterns, 1 2 1 2 3. Sare sare ga re ga ma pa ma ma pa da ni da ni sa ni da ni da ba da ma pa ma re ga re sa. 1 2 3 1 2 3 4. Sare ga ma re ga ma Then sa sa re re ga ga ma ma pa pa da da ni ni sa sa da ni ni da da ba ba ma ma ga ga re re ma. And this also full range, not the only middle. These also keep on doing whatever 10, 12, 15 times. Then next will come re sa ga re ma ga ba ma da ba ni da sa ni re sa ga re sa sa ni da da ba ba ma ma ga ga re sa. Then it can be 1 2 3 1 2 3 4 1 2 1 2 3. Then within that also sa re ga sa re ma ga, another pattern. So this is 1 2 1 2 sa re ga sa re ma ga 1 2 3 1 2 3 4 sa re ga sa re ga ma. This is also 1 2 3 1 2 3 sa re ga sa ga re ga. This is also 1 2 3 1 2 3 4 sa re ga re ga ma re ma ga ma pa ga pa ma pa sa re ga ma re ga pa ma ga ma pa ga ma pa. So we formulate different patterns and practice them. I practice them in every raga whenever I used to take. But the first and foremost was Bhairav, 7 notes, clean 7 notes, so easier to go anywhere. So in a way, whatever I am going to sing, I am practicing, making everything brain ready. And ultimately, after that, the answer is that later on, once all these things are ready, there the art starts. The art doesn't start in this practice. This is just the technical brilliance. The art starts when you have all these what you call them, fighting shastra tayar ho jayenge jab, when you have weapons ready. But weapons is not over. So the art starts.
Wonderful, Sanjeev ji. Sorry to interrupt you at this stage.
No,
now, the reason that I'm interrupting was also that you already brought in a beautiful connect between the Hindustani and the Carnatic system. So many of the practices that you showed is also done by the Carnatic style. In fact, it's wonderful to know that your Gharana works on Bhairav, which is very common to our system also in general.
Oh.
So I'm going to go to Balamuralikrishna now. I'm going to come up with a different aspect. Balamurali, welcome, first of all. I'm going to come on a different aspect completely. Our music has different types of gamaks, the gamakas that we use in our music. So we are usually singing, our singing style becomes sometimes, the issue itself over a period of time. When you keep singing it, you're being told at a very young age to do certain things. And over a period of time, you suddenly start noticing that you're having some issues with your voice, but you don't know what is causing that conflict. Your musicality says this is the way you should do it, but your voice says you're doing something wrong. So how do you balance these two? And where is my connect to see between my musicality without compromising or without seemingly compromising? How do I balance to ensure that the idiom is maintained, but I also get my control in my voice and also on tone itself? What do you think? How do you work a tone for you? So we're going to talk about it a little bit, and then of course we're going to go to the next round.
Okay, sure. So first of all, I'd like to finish off a couple of things. It was wonderfully demonstrated by Sanjeev ji. We do a few of these exercises and then a few more which will particularly assist certain unique ragams, certain unique patterns that we do in Carnatic music. We have something called Vakra ragams, for example. I'll just give a couple of examples now and then we'll move on to the next, to the crux of your question. We have something called Vakra ragam, wherein the scale itself is like, I'll just put on my shruti. And before I go into it, Mr. Harrelson, I think our Indian classical music has this bass pitch from which we operate, we all have a base pitch. For instance, mine is D. So I take all my ragams or what we call as ragams as patterns of swarams within which we'll operate for that one song. So we'll start. It's all based on one single note being our basic note.
So Neil, it is a fixed tonic. It's a fixed tonic, is what he's saying. For a particular artist, he chooses a particular tonic. Go ahead, Balam.
So yeah. So in that case, for Samagamadhanisa Sadavagamari is one of the ragams. Saripaga Madanisa Sanipamagamari. So these are ragams that we call as Vakra ragams, which basically means that they are zigzagged in the patterns. And we have to maintain the pattern, whatever speed, whatever kind of improvisation that we do. So to train us on this, we've had a few of exercises which we are taught right from the beginning. Just the way to use our voice, which I'll come later, the way to use our voice is not being taught. But these exercises are there for us to explore and understand and train our voices to get to make the vocal a little bit more flexible, more supple for all the extra different deviations that we are going to do later on. So so this is one such exercise. Sari sa gari gari ma sa ma gari gari ga ma ri ma ga pa ri pa ma gari ga ma pa ga ma da ga da pa ma ga ma pa da ba ni ma ni da ba ma pa da ni pa da ba ni da sa pa sa ni da ba da ni da ni da ni ba da ba da ni da ba ni da ni ba da ma ni ma pa da ni da ba ma da ma pa ga da ga ma pa da ba ma ga ma ri pa ri ga ma pa ma ga ri ma ga ma ri ga ga ma ga ri ga. So we alternate between singing the swarams as well as akaram. So like that, and we have one more exercise which is a little bit more interesting. Samaga ma ri ga sa ri ga ma ri pa ma pa ga ma ri ga ma pa ga da pa da ma pa ga ma pa ma pa ga ma pa da pa da ba ni da ni da ni da ba ni ma ba ma da ba ni da ni ba da ba ni da ba ma da ga ma pa ma da ba ma pa ma da ba ma ga pa ni ga ri ma ga pa ma pa ga ma pa ma ga ri ma ga ri ma ga ma ri ma ga ri. So these are just two examples of certain practices which will surely help us handle those ragams. Let's say I'm singing the one of those ragams that I showcased. Samagama da ni za ga ba ga ma da ba ga ma ni za ga. So this is basically a bit of improvisation, on the spot improvisation that we do. So to have us trained and be ready for this, because again, as Sanjeev ji so brilliantly suggested, these are things we never know what we're going to do, even while on stage. While we are doing the improvisation, it's kind of like jazz. Like we improvise on stage, like no preemption, just practice for this. So these are things, these are exercises which will help us to be ready to whatever comes to our mind to sing. Coming back to Shashikiran's question, the balance between the content and how to use the voice, because in Carnatic music we have 10 different unique types of gamakams or oscillations. And each one of them require a specific way of singing, specific way of using the voice. And we do that subconsciously if we are not adept at understanding how the voice works. We do it without even knowing, by listening to our gurus, like our masters, and then listening to other CDs and other musicians. But then when you end up with an issue of handling your voice, I would call something, I term it as a conscious compromise. As in, there are ways of approaching this, because as a musician who has been trained and learned in a very traditional way of handling Carnatic music, I have certain, I want to adhere to certain rules. I want to adhere to the way it is supposed to be sung, the way which gives me happiness, the way it touches my heart. So let's say that one of those things is not going to be positive on my voice. It's going to affect my voice. So the conscious compromise comes when I have a 4-way rule for myself. Handling depth of the voice and pushing the volume. So I do it as a 4-way process: high volume, high pressure in those set of notes, and then high volume, very less pressure, and then low volume, very high pressure, and then very low volume and very low pressure. So between these 4, let's say, I'll just show you a sample. I'll take a different ragam. Let's say this is kind of straining my voice. Or after an hour and a half of into the concert, let's say this is going to strain my voice, singing this much power and pushing it. I hope that my voice is being heard clearly and what I sang. So what I mean as being powerfully pushing it, let's say this is just a small example. We can just relate it to any of the phrases that our own voices find it hard to put forth. So if I find this hard, there are 2 ways that I can approach this. First of all, I can do the 4 practices. Full volume and full power and full pressure on each and every note. So you can, it's very constricted, but then there's a lot of pressure on each one of those notes, but then the volume is very less. So all this is very less pressure and very less volume. And what did I miss? Yeah, I think I missed high volume and very low pressure. Yes. So wherein just the power, the voice is just being pushed through, but I'm not. All the I can actually feel all my muscles reaching up and pushing my sound out with all the pressure which is capable. So what I do is I'll try and sing in these 4 things, and I'll try to find a sweet spot. And that is always going to be, though this is unique for each and every voice as I've found it, I think there is an optimum levels of the pressure and the volume that you can give for each and every one of these phrases. But they have to be dealt with individually though, because each phrase in each ragam has a different pressure and each range as well. The lower octave, the same sets of notes, we might have to sing it with a very less pressure, but then in a higher octave, we might have to push it through a lot more. So for all that, each one of these delineations have to be dealt with individually whenever we find an issue. So I have to sit down and work on this and see and find an optimum place where the tonal quality of my voice is good, as well as it's not straining my voice, and to my own traditional values of how I want to handle that note, those notes, how I want to handle those notes in that ragam. I'm not compromised on those. It takes a while, but then as human beings are creatures of habit, I think over a period, I think we will get an idea of how to handle all this, even without working on each and every one of those trouble notes.
Before we go to the next segment, very quickly, I'll come with a couple of questions that people are asking. One is, do ragas have to become muscle memory for an artist to excel in Carnatic music? Does it become muscle memory? Even in Hindustani music, I guess it is something. Your take on this? That is one. Then very quickly, one or two practice. How do you work on higher octaves? And somebody wants lower octaves. We're going to get to that. Lower octaves, I'm going to ask Neil to demonstrate after a while. Higher octaves, we are going to get back to that. I just wanted to quickly deal with this. We'll come back to these questions once we're going to hear some more about the yoga aspects. Thank you, Balamurali, for that first round of a lot of details that you could beautifully share. Sridharan sir, I would specifically, from my interaction with several artists and personally also being into music, with different kinds of travel and across the world, climatic changes, food changes, artists are not at their comfort all the time in terms of food. I know that you did explain about the 5-prong system of balance, but since we all travel to different places, sometimes we are subjected to different climates, different food structure, different time zones. And having all that in mind, also so many artists from the recent past, they all think that they have a throat problem, but it's more or less acid reflux. As an exponent, you could, tell us, how do we combat this? Because many other voice problems, musically also some of them can work. But when it comes to acid reflux, we are all caught unaware. Of course, after it hits us, we know. But through yoga, do you have something that you can recommend? And also that immediately impacts our breathing, that immediately impacts our singing. So that is one aspect. Of course, you can share the other aspects of the pain itself, the back pain and other things, how it affects. So any remedies that you can suggest? Some suggestive mechanisms. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll come to acid reflux quickly, but prior to that, I want to say one thing, because you started about stamina. In yoga, stamina is prana. See, in the 8 segments of yoga, the 3 segments which we generally come across are asana, physical exercise, pranayama, breath exercise, and dhyana, which you have asked a few things. I'll come to the last. In the 3, pranayama is the most. In fact, I recommend to everyone, particularly the singers, that don't miss out on your pranayama every day. Okay, in pranayama, the most important thing is, how do you breathe in, breathe out? For somebody, we start with the right exhalation. In fact, the most important thing is right exhalation. I'll give you a technique. For example, you take the mid finger and put it in the navel, sit straight. As you exhale, see to it that the navel is drawn back completely. The navel is drawn back completely and goes. If this technique doesn't set in, the correct technique of exhalation does not set in, then the breathing pattern will not set in properly. In fact, exhalation is a willed activity. You have to inhale after you exhale. So making the exhalation, first we make people, as Neil said, we make people lie down, ask them to do the correct technique of exhalation, use fingers, use a small hand there. So first technique of breathing is done, exhalation is improved, exhalation is done, then the inhalation goes. Because as the exhalation goes, the diaphragm will have to go up and the rib cage will have to collapse, it has to come up. For this, the most important thing is, I would recommend strongly that everyone should have the abdominal muscles to be removed completely through yoga exercises. If you have a lot of abdominal muscles, they don't go out and come. In fact, you can do a lot above only, not below. So that is where we give a lot, at least every day, some 5 rounds of Surya Namaskar, some Trikonasana and all that. Now, correct technique of breathing. Breathing has to be made longer and longer. Prana ayama means to make it longer. So if my inhalation is 5 seconds, exhalation is 10 seconds, I should not remain the same. I should be able to make it longer and longer. Third, I'll introduce them to a technique where I inhale, hold, and make the exhalation longer and longer. So these are all some of the techniques that we will have to do. And every day one will have to do the pranayama, and we prescribe according to the people. And as I told you, to play on the exhalation. If you, the moment you do on the exhalation longer, it makes the mind calm. In fact, when it makes it calm, it makes everything better. I'll come back to acid reflux quickly. The acid reflux is a problem with regard to food as well as the stress. Well, I have known that there are two, geniuses here. Even if I ask them one question, the moment you go on the stage, how are you? Are you stressed or not? Yes. How can you be? You are genius. You are all born genius. You are doing. T.K. Patamal gives in her 80th year, 90th year one of the interviews in which she says, even now, if I go to the stage, I have a stress. The moment you go to the stage, you have a stress. You have finished the kacheri concert. Then you are feeling hungry. You start eating anything that comes in the way. Then you have to put on a small pali here, and then what will happen to the breathing? Now, acid reflux. Quick answer is make your food to be very, very careful. Don't give a lot of time in between, which yoga also we say. The third and most important thing is make the mind calm, and exhalation, long exhalation helps in that. Finally, there is, because always need an answer, there is one pranayama which helps in acid reflux. That is called Shitali, and where you keep your mouth like this is like a okay. And we inhale through the mouth, close the mouth, exhale through the nostril. This we have found it to be very good in acid reflux. I'll quickly tell you how, what is the logic behind it, or what is the science behind it. Acid reflux, according to Ayurveda, which follows yoga, is a pitta problem. It is a problem where the biles have started working more. It is in Sanskrit, they call it pitta, kapha, vata, pitta of the 5 elements. And this is a pitta shamana. This is a pitta shamana. Some people may not be able to do that like this. We ask them to inhale as if you are taking the water through a straw. In pranayama, in yoga, you are expected to not to breathe through the mouth. It is balahina. It is only in inhale that we take the breath through this. And Shitali, pranayama, helps a lot in acid reflux. Apart from that, make the mind cool.
I would also like to ask you one more question. Since you're already there, I would ask this right now. A lot of artists and even generally even kids to everybody, they all get a lot of allergies. Now we are battling COVID, so we all have so many other kinds of issues. So while doing this, how do you think, one can get over these allergies, like for instance, sinusitis and so on, through yoga? How do you balance it? Because a lot of people say, they're not able to sing because early in the morning itself, we all, even normal people, we feel a little bit stuffy. And after half an hour, for us, we start doing some vocal warm-ups, we get better. But generally, what do you advise? How do you advise, or what do you think would make a difference? And you can also talk about, the overall, the back and other things also, some asanas that will keep. So you can quickly mention about some of those. Of course, we can't fully go through the details, but you can at least share some details.
Okay. quick. Number one, allergy is a situation where something is not conducible to the system. It can come from food, it can come from environment, water, air, and sometimes even certain other aspects of. You see, first thing is, what is the type of allergy is more important. If you are talking about an allergy relating to nostrils and all that, and they are like sinusitis, the best is that you do some good postures, like Surya Namaskar, very simple, which is internationally known, everyone knows. Surya Namaskar, 5 rounds, if you do that, it will relieve you first, number one. And as far as pranayama is concerned, we cannot teach that over Zoom, but there is a pranayama called Kapalabhati. That Kapalabhati helps in relieving this nostril clearances. The Kapalabhati is done where, like that you breathe. And if you go into the web, you go into the YouTube, Ramdev ji will do a lot of Kapalabhati. You can see that. And Kapalabhati is one which relieves the nostrils. It is actually one which relieves the Kapala Bhati. It makes the Kapala into shining, means it relieves a lot. But I tell you one thing, the moment you get up in the morning, there is bound to be some blocks, because most of the time in Chennai and all that, we are sleeping in an air-conditioned one. And the moment you come out, it will be there. And the night food is very important. I tell you, please, because there is so many people who are now listening to this, so many artists. If you eat very heavily in the night, you will get a block in the morning. There is no other way. So night food has to be a bit light. It has to be a bit early, and have your lunch and have your breakfast very good. Now, even if you get up at the stairs in your home 2-3 times, it will get relieved. Kapalabhati will also help you. And allergy is something which you will have to see what is the cause for it. I tell you, there are situations where children who want to go to examinations, they will get an allergy. After the exams are over, they will not get the allergy. It is something to do with the mind also. Food, air, water, the way of living conditions and all. Kapalabhati is a very good exercise. And as far as 1 minute, as far as yoga, because I'll take just 2-3 minutes, because I'm interested in saying that. I'll tell you, most of the time, most of the artists, singers as well as others, you all are in a seated position for how many hours? Minimum 8 hours. Minimum. So what happens is, one muscle is pulled, another muscle stays in the same way. Somebody is asking about muscle, there is a person called Thomas Anna who has done a research, and he calls it as muscle memory. So your muscle, which after about 3 hours of concert, where you have been sitting in a position, you don't relieve it at all. You have to classically relieve it. You have to stretch your calf muscles. You have to stretch them properly. You have to prepare, doing certain bending forwards, doing certain back arches, and certain things. Particularly, lie down on the back and relieve your legs slowly, stretch up and down. Stretch up and down. After the concert, that's what I tell everyone, including Balamurali. I have to tell him. So after the concert, please don't jump and go for your dinner. Do some stretches and then go and have dinner and then relax. Morning every day, there should be a stretch. We should involve the low back and calf muscle stretches and strengthen the back, and also stretch the knee, backside and all. I think I should not talk too much. That is why
No. Wonderful, sir. It's very beautiful, very, very insightful. I think your experience and a lot of sharing of such useful tips will be very beneficiary. Of course, if somebody wants to go in more seriously, they'll have to pursue it at a little bit more.
I will also answer specific questions. I will probably leave the floor.
Yeah, we'll get to that in the last segment. We're going to go into that after this round. We're going to go into specific questions. Okay. Neil, quickly, we'll keep some of the points a little bit brief, but you can demonstrate a lot more of the exercises. Somebody wants to see how, now we have seen some of the, how Indian musicians sing. So keeping some of that in mind, I also want you to talk, because we're going to have a lot more, this is going to be viewed by a lot more students from who are, learning Indian music. From keeping that in mind, somebody wants to know how do they improve their bass range, and some tips. You showed some things. How do you relax your jaws? How do I relax here?
And the jaw.
What do I do here? What is going to work to keep my all this? And then how do I use this space?
Right.
How do I bring this into use? And all
so much to talk about. Okay. To work on the bass voice, I think of voice as vibration. My objective when I sing is to allow my voice to happen, not to force my voice into a sound or a position. Right. So the middle voice is the easiest voice to sing. Right. I just allow the air. It really, rather than trying to force the note out, I really feel like I'm just sighing. I would like, for me, there's no difference in the air pressure at all. To get the space here, right? A feeling of smiling is very helpful to get these muscles to lift. These muscles help in lifting the soft palate, which gives us easy access to the higher register, right? So a feeling of feeling pleasant and like you have something happy to share with someone. Not too much here. It's not a good position, but a lifted position, right? You can feel the muscles here are pulling back, right? Then connection to the body helps maintain this position, right? So for me, the feeling of going, if I'm going up, I actually feel like I'm going down into my body and just allowing more relaxation, right? Connection, contraction of the muscles. I think what destroys those feelings, what takes you away from the lifted resonant sound, right, is when we try too hard to create the sound, right? And there's a lot of pressure on the throat. I cannot vibrate that sound. I'm just screaming. If I allow the sound, right? All the time, I am feeling connected all the way to the floor of my abdominal area, right? I feel, as you were saying before, that there is a pull-in of the muscles in the lower abdominal area. Again, it's a natural movement. You don't have to make the movement. The movement, as you allow the air to leave the lungs, you will feel those muscles are going to contract in. It's very natural, right? So anytime these concepts happen, they are things to be mindful of, not necessarily things that we need to actually engage, right? So working on the low voice, I think, is really relaxing, right? It is effortless, even in the large sound, right? Do you perform with microphones, everybody? Yeah. So
yes.
Yeah, you don't have the task of having to try to project your voice in a very large arena. Your voice will be projected. So I would think that in terms of stamina, you are looking for a technique that just serves your emotional intention. And let the microphone help you a lot, right? Don't sing beyond your capacity, right? Sometimes it is helpful to think that I'm going to bring, instead of trying to sing into the theater, I'm going to bring the theater to me. I'm going to pull it in, right? For me, this is a very big part of my teaching, like staying grounded, feeling like I'm drawing the voice in rather than forcing my voice out, right? exercises for that are pretty simple, I think, really. And to get a feeling of these muscles relaxing, just allowing the vocal cords to come together gently, right? Like in a sigh, or perhaps when you wake up in the morning. Those are easy initiation of the vocal folds. They're not squeezing together, right? That is the position for the low voice. Right. Somebody was asking about high voice. How do we sing into the high voice? So what I think the issue here is the low voice we feel a lot here, right? We feel the resonance of the sound. I feel much less, almost nothing in the chest at all. I still feel open here, but the change is an acoustical change, and I have to allow that feeling into the high voice, and the high voice feels light, and it doesn't feel powerful in the beginning. Right? It takes time for the muscles to learn to support that the headspace sound, I think. So if you're yodeling back and forth, I think is beneficial. And to do them slowly. If you don't allow the feeling of the acoustical change, you're going to grip here. I have freer sound if I just allow the position to change. I think it's important for me in my teaching to lead singers to what the difference feels like, right? Allow them to vacillate between the chest resonance and the head resonance, and then try to join the two of them with a steady airflow, right? That is the key to all of singing, actually, is maintaining the airflow very consistently. You can engage you can send more compressed air for more emphasis, like if you want to create a louder sound, or you need to attack a note to make it sound like you want to accentuate a certain idea or a thought, right? That again comes from the body. And what I would warn against is like any feeling like these muscles at all are constricted, right? It's more open. Right? Often teachers talk about feeling like you're yawning, right? Right? I hope I'm answering the question. I'm very technique oriented, so for me it always comes to these key points: connection to the body, steady airflow, release in the jaw. You are asking about. So the only place the jaw can really tense is in the joint, right? We can feel tension here, but it is the result of where the jaw and the skull meet, right? And often it's helpful to place the hands here and let the jaw completely go slack, right? No pressure at all in the jaw. And then do your exercises, whatever you're doing. If you feel activity here, right? Like if you squeeze your teeth, you can feel the muscles are contracting, right? So a feeling of no engagement at all in the jaw. I'm not really moving at all for any of these notes, right? I am dependent on steady airflow. And I use this term a lot in my teaching. The body feels passive. This may not feel like, when you're performing, you may not feel like you're giving enough, and I think as Balam was saying, you come to a place where you make choices in your performance, right? how much am I going to give? Where
Yes, you're back.
Oh yeah. I don't know where I left off, but yeah, for me, it's all about maintaining a consistent breath pressure predicated on connection to the body. Release of the jaw is essential. Typically, people that have jaw tension are also tight at the base of the tongue, right? So the base of the tongue is the entire floor of the jaw, right? And so you may feel free at the tip. This may feel very loose to you, but if you're feeling muscular tension here, and one way to check is to take the thumb and press into the floor of your jaw and sing. If you feel something pressing down on the tongue, then you can actually hear the sound is altered because the tongue is starting to become tense. Once tension enters the body, it's like it keeps building. So it's going to come into the jaw. It's going to affect the rib cage. You'll get into this place. I think that if you feel like you're doing this in a performance, the only time to really make the change is in the next breath. It is in the breath where we can reset, relax, start again. Is that helpful?
Wonderful. Wonderful, Neil. It was very insightful. What I'm going to do is I'm going to have Sanjeev and Balamurali get into a few things. Before then, I want you to just demonstrate one quick vowel exercise which you were talking about, the transition of the vowel. You've demonstrated some vowel exercises, right? Using the vowels.
Oh, for the head voice and the chest
R
voice.
to I, the kind of transition.
Yeah. A very
How
helpful
does one do an exercise like that?
Yeah, it's a very helpful exercise, and typically you can start with just one octave. Oh, right. Again, let this just go slack. Oh, when you feel like you are having no tension at all, go to the next. Oh, and I'm going to go faster. You can add, when you're very comfortable, 2 octaves. Allowing the feeling of the chest and the feeling of the head. Is an exercise I give to every student, right? Will help you learn the balance between the chest and the head, and eventually they will come together, right, in the middle. Yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you. Sanjeev ji, a lot of people have been asking, how do you practice stance? Fast stance mainly. And I want you to demonstrate a few exercises that can help them to do some of the dance more effectively. I think other than that, I would personally, you did demonstrate a few things. I would also like to say you make a transition, between the very classical style to you also sing the devotional.
Yeah.
So is there anything that you do to change your voice technique while you do this? And as a musician itself, what is your mental setup? If there is a mental psyche to preparation.
Absolutely.
So what do you do? How do you work on that?
Very
is
nice.
there things? So very quickly, we'll go through some of the points.
First, I'll answer the second question. Yeah. Singing different genres. I don't think there is a different voice practice for that. Practice is same. If one has practiced in a correct way, the person can sing any forms. Then what is important is changing the mindset to do that. So then the application of voice changes. I'll demonstrate it for you. Just example, like suppose in my typical classical format which I'm singing, Hindustani Khyal, I might be used to just singing The one way of using the voice. There's endless ways of using the voice. But I'm not used to I'm not used to putting the words without my voice moving. So if somebody is not used to doing it, he will sing like Mangalam because he's only used to sing, his mind is conditioned. Shashikiran, Balamurali, how are you? Tell me. I'm fine. Hello, nice. Meet to meet you. Where are you right now? So then my note is there only, as if the alap is going on. So I have seen many musicians who can sing very steadily, but their mind is not conditioned to sing Shashikiran, how are you? Balmuli, how are you? They cannot sing the words, keeping the same swara, as if that swara is on a hold. So that form of music is absolutely a conditional thing. So just like Mr. Neil was demonstrating, the same concept. He is singing in a different way, but the concept is the same. So I sing it in A or I sing it Shashikiran, how are you? If you are not conditioned to sing, your mind is not conditioned to sing a form, how much well trained you are, you cannot give justice to it. So your question was, when I'm singing devotional music, do I change my voice modulation? No, I change my mindset. That now I am going to give importance to the words. Now I'm going to say what the words want me to say. And I'm going to use my swaras or notes for me to express the meaning what has been told in the words. When I'm singing my classical form, it's just the other way. I am now singing more of the notes pure form and going to use the words just to help create a particular kind of mood. It might be the romance, it might be the surrender, it might be the pathos, it might be the anandaras, you call it, joy. So the mindset changes for me. When I'm singing devotional or any light form, I am giving importance that I will give justice to the words, using my practice of the notes. One very nice demonstration I sang for the film Godmother, where I won the national award as the best male playback singer in 1998. That's a learning experience. That was a learning experience for me. The music composer, he loves my singing, Vishal Bharadwaji. And so he said, Sanjeev, you will sing the film song also very well. Will you sing it for me? So I had sung 2-3 songs for him before also. But that experience, when I went there to sing, that was a folk kind of song. And naturally, my basic instinct is a refined singing, I call it. Like I will stick to the 440 of the note. Every note I want to touch 440 and have it pinpointed. That's it. Whatever speed, whatever it is. I was singing the song with a emotion, but I was very precise, super refined. And then from other side of the glass, they were very happy. I mean, they were saying, but Sanjeev ji, something is missing. So I did not know what was missing. So when they could not tell me what was missing, so the lyricist, very famous lyricist, he said from there, Sanjeev ji, it's coming too refined. So till then also I was it's coming too refined means it's a great pat on the back for me, right? So I jokingly said, that I have worked for so many years to make it to a point where it's coming too refined. So what is the problem? So then suddenly the music director recognized my problem because I'm being trained. My brain is being trained to be super refined. So he said, Sanjeev, sur chhod do. The most difficult thing to do for me. He said, just forget about the tunefulness. So what happened, I'll demonstrate. So the thing is, I'll tell you how the refinement was. सुनो रे भैया के जोगी है क्यों जोगी डारे. I'm used. This is super refined. And now they wanted it. सुनो रे भैला के जोगी है क्यों जोगी डरे. हुआ उसका मन क्यों बेकार, वो क्यों घूमे जंगल जंगल, वो क्यों छोड़ आया चौपाल. ओ भैला रे ओ वीरा रे. Otherwise I would sing this they did not know. So everything is in the brain, the form is in the brain. So then immediately when I left that, when I just left that refinement and just sang only what they wanted. Only emotion, let the sur be here, let that tunefulness go here and there. For me, it was not best of what I would otherwise sing. But for them, it was the best of what they wanted. They wanted that different feel and different folkish feel. And that song got a national award. So that answer was there. So it's just in the brain.
Very quickly, some fast dance, what do you do and how do you practice? And somebody wants to also know anything that you suggest for early morning practice.
Yeah,
how does one start an early morning practice? Very quickly, just this couple of
just
points.
2 minutes, I'll say. Early morning, first one has to start with the plain holding notes. Just what I demonstrated in the beginning itself. Just pure holding notes. Naturally, you go down, use your lower octave as much as possible in the beginning because our naturally in the morning voice goes down very comfortable. Maybe because Sridharan ji may be saying that because of that kapha element, it's heavy. So make use of it and dive in the lower octave in the morning. Then after some time, automatically it will, the kapha as it melts, your voice will start going up very easily. So holding notes is the first thing you should do in the morning. And for the tanas, mainly concentration is more important. The patterns I already demonstrated. But how fast and refined you can go depends only on your concentration. Because everyone has to think in the first attempt only I'll get it. I tell my students that don't think that this is practice and that is concept. Bring your practice to such a level that in your concept, whatever comes to your mind, you can sing. And then the reverse happens. When you are practicing, it doesn't become practice, it becomes a full-fledged final, like even in my case, I can tell you my experience. Even if I'm singing in bathroom, people think the CD is being played. That clear cut, there is no demarcation. I sit anywhere, it will be like a concert only. So for that, my experience is concentration. Concentration will bring your tanas, and patterns I already told you. I won't repeat because it will take a lot of time. So what is the way? The way is concentration. Yeah, I'm speaking with you, but still I could do it. So just the concentration. Many people, I tell my students that you lack. Even if you can sing the tan once perfectly, it means that you have it in you. Then there is no excuse. You have to sing it perfectly every time. If one doesn't have an understanding or one doesn't have a capacity to produce, that person will never be able to produce it. Not even once. But if somebody is able to produce it once, and then you say, oh, Sanjeev is so difficult. No, don't tell me. You are lacking concentration. You have sung it once, then now every time, whenever your brain tells you to sing it, it has to be coming close to 100. That is my answer.
Thank you, Sanjeev ji, for that wonderful illustration in a quick way. I'll request Balamuralikrishna. I know we are running out of time also, but I would like you to talk more about, these two very irking styles. Again, you can demonstrate the brigas in our music. But more importantly, how do you handle, nok? This is a huge problem. I want to do nok. Most of all of our very classical oriented Rakti ragas, which is very Carnatic ragas, are demanding the voice. Say if I sing a Hinduvalam or Ranjani, my voice texture works fine. Suddenly, if I go to Begada or something like that, then it becomes a little bit, or Todi, it becomes a little bit more demanding on the voice. So what does one do? And how have you adapted? You have worked on some techniques which I know. So I would like you to share some of those. And it still sounds, what is very good about your singing is it still sounds Carnatic. So what have you done to adapt to that?
Okay.
And Kampita Gamakam also. What is the optimum level of Kampitam you use without compromising or seemingly compromising?
Okay. I'll first start off with the Kampita Gamakas. I found it's a small adjustment that we have to make, and this works with most of the ragams. The more the oscillation, basically the Kampita Gamakam is more of an oscillation between two notes, and how much you apply pressure on each of those notes and how much you grind them. Basically, that's what I call how well you grind those notes. When you let me show. For a basic ragam, like even like Maya Molecular, same as what Sanjeev took down. My technique is for ragams like these, which are not basically the Rakti ragams or the harder ragams on the voice. The faster and the more the grind between two swarams, the lesser pressure. So that's one way of countering the effect of the negative effect of always shaking each and every single note and joining them and grinding them. I don't want to do that. So what I do is I make it directly proportionate. Does not affect my voice as much as so what I do is it also sounds much better. The tonal quality is much better than the other one, but still I am trying to safeguard my voice by singing the gamakam correct, but still making it sound better and also making it hassle free for the voice.
Okay, I'm going to slightly ask you to show me with the Rakti Raga.
Yes, I'm getting
going to ask you to do a Begada, and also I'm going to ask you to do what is the transition when you get your composition, not the vowels alone. I have so many consonants that comes in. How do I handle that?
True. Yeah, I'll get to that. So the Kampita Gambakam for a Rakti Ragam like Begada, as you suggested. So there is your answer basically.
I want you to show what you would have originally done when you learned.
Okay. So The phrases are slightly different, and it is not just the power and the volume that I'm increasing when I do this. It's also the depth, the way I handle those gamakams. That changes a lot. So this changes the exact amount of the depth or the amount of pressure I apply on each one of these swarams. They change according to each and every ragam. This is not true for another. Let's take Danyasi as a ragam, which is another Rakti ragam. This is how I've been conditioned to sing. This is how I've been taught. This is how I've listened to it. This is how I've envisioned singing it. This, with a really good projection and a good, nice EQ of the mics, will sound, the tonal quality of this will also sound good in a hall for sure. But then what happens is, after 10 minutes of singing, I feel constriction all over here. I feel hoarseness. And so for all that, what we can do is, again, like the word I used before, I was not able to elaborate a lot more on that. Conscious compromise, it goes in different layers. So one of the conscious compromise that is completely out of the box, which has got nothing to do with singing per se, is if I have a concert the next day, I would probably not choose one of these heavier ragams. Or all through my list of songs that I'm going to sing, only this one will be really heavy, so that I can save my voice. I can build my voice to a climax of actually pushing it as much as possible in this just one piece, so that I am really, see, it all comes from being conscious of what is happening inside while you're singing. You either learn it by techniques, by learning from a voice trainer, or else by trial and error. I'm
going to quickly ask you two more short questions. Sorry for cutting you. I'm going to ask you two more short questions. One is, I've seen you use your tongue more now. So how do you sing it? Before, compared to before, you've started using a little bit more of your tongue to get your throw in certain ways. Do you do something to work consciously on your tongue, working in a certain way?
Yes, I do. I'll explain that. But before that, I'll finish off the nokku. So the Kampita Gamakam, as in for Begada, what I try to do is I try and join the notes, whichever notes are possible. Sort of that. The difference between these two, which is the second one, obviously is much more conducive for my voice. And dropping the voice wherever possible, because these are ragams in which you drop your voice in one wrong note, it sounds completely superficial. So you have to really be conscious and really think it through before dropping your voice, letting your pressure go down in the syllables. And the problem multifolds when you have to sing a song, because in Carnatic music we have, and basically in most of the South Indian languages, the indentations, the pressure on each one of the letters, you can even find that when I talk. My T's and my R's are really heavy. So this transports to singing as well. So if I have to sing really fast words, I try to use the space. I have learned to use a lot more of using the space in my mouth, a lot more open technique, and that's actually a leading answer to what you asked me about my tongue as well. And I try to bring in a lot more of nasality, as in, let me show you. This is a really difficult verse that we have to sing. Gatti gatti karamuna sharachapamu batti moola balamunu ravanudana guttinal banaveda trimurtulu korinu dimpaga. So this has to happen in the speed. Gatti gatti karamuna sharajapamu batti muna balamunu ravanudala. And I have to understand and I have to emote the meaning of the words, as well as not go off the ragam, not go off the feel of the ragam. So what I try to do here is gatti gatti karamuna sharaja, more natural way of pronouncing each and every word. And it's fairly psychological. The more I think of it, the better it happens. I can also tell you like how Sanjeev ji showed and how Neil showed us. That happens in Carnatic music basically because we have gamakams for each of these notes, like 90%. We always tend to do preemptive notes to go to the intended note. That's how we go. We need that preemption. So to cut loose of that and to get out of that, the only thing that I understood was it's all in the mind, and I cannot unlearn where each and every note is. I already know where it is. So the more confident I am on believing that I know where it is, and I just open my mouth. It's basically a track for the air to go up and down. That's it. So if I start working with my brains in those terms, I'm able to reach any note in any speed with any pressure without preemption. The confidence matters. That the more you work on it, you kind of get a control over not controlling your voice. So
that's wonderful.
What else? Did I answer all your questions?
Yes, I think most of those. We'll have one concluding remarks from all of you, and I'll have one particular question to all of you quickly, and we'll wind up with that. Okay, and I think for Sridharan sir, who starts his day very, very early, it is extremely almost midnight for him. So I'll want to relieve him very soon now.
Thank you.
Sir, sorry for taking much of your time. I'll quickly ask you, there are a lot of people asking for these two issues. One is, now the mental thing, the stress, the dhyana part of it, which you said. So something simple that you can quickly show us. The other part is about the diet. Now, some people are asking whether if I take cold things as a singer, will it affect? So is it psychological? Is it something that they have to work, or is it got anything directly connected to what they do before a performance? And citrus and other things, which normally in Ayurveda we avoid. So anything that you would quickly like to highlight that should be avoided?
Yeah. First, let us take the diet portion. Certainly it has been found that certain diets like excess acid bringing things, they are not good, including very cold things. Certainly it will work. There are a few people, exceptional people, who have even given interviews, whom we know, they say that they can take an ice cream and go and give a concert. But that is different. We are talking about average people. In the case of average people, even presently, even with the COVID stage, they are saying that it is better to take a lukewarm water itself. The ancients, they have always stated that it is lukewarm water which is important, because it will only work in your stomach. It will loosen all those stuff and then it will push out. So better to avoid very cold right from the fridge, etc. In fact, anything that has been cooked and kept into the fridge and taken out is not at all good. It will work anti. Actually, it will work on the gunas also. In fact, you are talking about dhyana. So I'll combine both of them. Actually, in yoga, we are talking about the three gunas. The three gunas are sattva, rajas, and tamas. And the foodstuff that makes one's rajas and tamas go up is not good. It affects even breathing, everything. As far as the dhyana is concerned, dhyana is something, it is better we learn it. I think the best way to do dhyanam for a beginner is to do pranayama. I'll tell you what. A pranayama itself is a dhyana. I'll tell you how. What is dhyana first? Dhyana is to put the mind on one thing. As you are doing your concert, all the three of you, you are doing a dhyana. But at that time, what you are doing is because your mind is oriented towards that, it goes into that. So when I say dhyana, the ability to focus on anything at any time is dhyana. So you are a musician, so for you, he is giving, both of them are giving like anything. That is because it is them. For them, it comes out. Supposing we are going to ask them a different question, then they will say, please, I will take some time to come back. So the ability to stay focused on anything, where the mind has to be focused on something, is dhyana. It is cultivated by a practice, like all of them are talking about how to do the various swaras and all that. So every day, a part of the time is to be spent particularly on focusing on the breath. For example, you do this Nadi Shodhana, Nadi Shuddhi, I would consider, add a mantra into that, that becomes a dhyana. Any mantra, om, or any syllable. Okay. Now, Nadi Shuddhi is good because it cleanses all the nadis, and then it makes the mind sattva, it balances. It balances rajas and tamas. One is rajas, one nadi, another nadi is tamas. Both are balanced. Sattva is, the moment mind comes into sattva, the dhyana comes into it. Now, add up some syllable, but better go and take it from someone, or om for that matter, and focus on the breath. That itself is good. Finally, I wanted to say, what I have found when I work with people on this is, in fact, in other areas, we do a lot of Vedic chanting. We have found Vedic chanting to be very helpful for even people who are, because in Vedic chanting, even though it is 3 notes or 4 notes, there are a lot of syllables that go differently. You can work on them in a different way. There are Ganam, Jatai, Kramam, we do it and all that. So now I ask someone to do a passage in the beginning. I give them a yoga course, make them relax completely. And then the moment they relax, and lower octaves are coming. The most important thing is lower octaves are there themselves not aware. Oh, I can go into this. Because relaxation is not only here. It is for the whole body. That is why I told you Annamaya. It's called from the top of your head right up to your toe is relaxation. When it is stressed from all the cells are stressed. So the best way for dhyana is pranayama. First longer exhalation, Nadi Shuddhi pranayama, then inhale, hold, and use mantras where there will be something like Om, etc.
Wonderful, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'm sure we have all benefited immensely from your whatever you have shared. And of course, we have to pursue and practice for more perfection.
Thank you, Shashi.
I'll quickly move to a conclusion with the NEAL. NEAL, a lot of people want to know 3 or 4 quick warm-ups that they can do on a daily basis, which will help them. Some different warm-ups which will keep them fit. That is one. The other thing is the difference between falsetto and false voice. So I know it's a big subject, but many people are getting confused when you're doing the transition. How do you reach that pitch? Is it false notes or is it falsetto? Or without cracking, how can I reach that? Because most of us use only chest voice even when we go up in Indian music. So how do you reach those registers? And with the transition between the abdomen and then chest voice to the head voice, how do you balance it from the lower to the higher register? If you can just show that very quickly. I know it's a huge subject, but
it's tremendous. I feel personally there at a certain point when you have worked and practiced a lot, the transition between the falsetto and the full voice is very seamless. I can go in and out of both, but it takes many years of practice to achieve that. But it is the goal. Because then you can use both sounds and the sounds are integrated, and we're not hearing a lot of difference in the dynamic. If you go into the falsetto voice, the true falsetto voice doesn't have a lot of volume. So learning to use the breath, which is what navigates between the two. Balam was saying something earlier about this just being the connector, right? The throat is just the channel through which we allow air to escape, and we can go from the chest to the head as long as the throat is open and free, and not feeling constricted at all, we have easy access into that. Just a few quick exercises, I think, to start. And I did this earlier, but I think this is a very important exercise. And I would just give it to, since I don't know who's listening, we would just do the 1 octave exercise and start comfortably in the bottom part of your voice, not too low, but where you feel you can initiate sound easily. All right. And you would alternate between the ah vowel, the oo vowel, and sing a scale. While I'm doing this, I'm mindful that my rib cage is stretching all the time. I am wanting to feel the muscles in my throat are expanding. Not a lot, right? These are subtle movements, right? The position of my jaw, very loose. I would encourage you at some point to go into the false voice, to go into the falsetto, right? When this feels free, you can start adding more compressed air, which is asking more work from the abdominal muscle. It's hard to do sitting down. I don't think you can see me, but the falsetto voice will teach you many, many things. It brings all of the technical qualities in without dealing with too much excessive breath pressure. Right? This a lot. Lip trills are very helpful in first thing in the morning. To get the throat to relax, we did earlier. If there are motifs that you want to practice on, as the 2 demonstrators have used a lot, you could try these in that position. You'll feel more connection to the body. You'll feel the throat open. It could be a benefit. The main thing to realize about the air pressure is that as you go higher, you may feel more contraction of the abdominal muscles. You may feel that the air is moving faster, right? I would not use a lot of assistance from the solar plexus, which are just below the rib cage, right? I would use instead. I would look at the muscles behind me, at the base of the rib cage. There, I'm looking for the lumbar muscles here, right? When I'm doing the I'm feeling the pounce of those muscles. Not a lot, but I am asking them to work, right? As you were talking about earlier, Sanjeev, you have to prepare your mind. You have to prepare the body. Also, the body is your best tool to be able to sing for a long time with freedom. And then other issues, if you're having issues with the tongue, allow your tongue just to rest on the front lip. And see, can you disengage from the tongue and still maintain the vowel? So the tongue moves, but as much as it moves only as necessary to create the vowel that we want to sing. U and O, we use a lot of lip. E are a lot of tongue position, right? You can use exercises to work the tongue and the lips together. The pattern that you use is irrelevant, right? Just getting the muscles to work, freedom, and to work, synergetically. So everybody's all the muscles that you need to work are helping you, and the muscles that you don't need are encouraged to be more passive, right? Was there anything else, like more specifically?
I think it was wonderful. I think you've shared a lot for this session. We'll have to come back for one more session to get more from your expertise.
Sure.
Sanjeev ji, very quickly, just conclusion speech. I would like you to, there is somebody who's asking about breath control. How do you balance it when you're singing the higher registers, particularly? And how do you ensure that you don't shout while you sing the higher octave, but how do you balance it? Somebody wants to know about this. Then if you have anything else to share quickly, I would like you to do that. About 3 minutes to 4 minutes.
Yeah. I think your first question was, how do you control when you are going up, right? No, second. And first one was? So
yeah,
I'll answer that.
The breath control, yeah.
How do breath
and also the language, if you can say, how do you balance about the, how do you balance your voice when you have consonants and language?
I think everything comes again at the end of it. It boils down to you listen to yourself. This really people find it. Surprising that don't everybody listen to them while they sing. But the answer is no. Most of the people don't listen to themselves continuously when they sing. Otherwise, nobody will be needed to be told if the tonal quality is good or not. Because same voice, you can produce it in different ways, right? So is it coming the way you really want because it's a subjective matter. Good or bad voice or quality, tonality is highly subjective. There can be many interpretations. There is not a standard one that this is Sanjeev Abhyankar's voice is only the best voice. It's not that. There are so many different good voices. But the thing is, that person who is singing should be happy with what the tonal quality he is producing is important. Everybody has their own voice, but every time whenever the voice comes out, they continuously have to listen to what is coming, so that it's not needed to be told how you control the upper scale, because again that is also subjective. Shouting, some people will say this is shouting. Some people will say 10% less is also shouting. Some people will say no, this is not shouting. If you put your voice more than this, then it's shouting. So there is no standardization of what will you call shouting. So that is also again subjective. So you listen to your own voice and you decide for yourself what is the best maximum is for you. And when you are practicing, be habitual so much that you will give only that much breath to that note, where you know that is not going to come more than what is needed. So every time, so in my practice, if I am listening to my voice, every time the same kind of breath and pressure I am giving to that upper note, then I know that this is not shouting for me. But then when I'm delivering actually as a final product, I don't need to think on those lines, whether how much breath I'm having to give. Because my brain is habitual to giving that maximum. It knows how much maximum I want to give, not how much maximum I can sing. Because where it comes, I can sing, that extra pressure is there. Whenever you know that this is a maximum, I want to sing, your voice will never be straight. So by God's grace, I've never come to, I'm singing for 40 years. I've never come to a point where my voice is tired and I cannot sing the next day. Not even once. Because how much good the program is going on, I stop at that point. I modestly tell the audience that this is the end of it. Now, if I sing more, my voice is going to be strained and I don't want this to be my last program. So see you again next time in Chennai. So I never exceed I know my maximum pressure, how much my voice can take. So the answer is you don't go to a level where you know that now this is the, no, why should you? You give only what is needed.
Wonderful, wonderful, Sanjeev ji. Such a beautiful session. Loved having you. Balamurali, two things I had asked you, and I would quickly like you to do that alone, and we'll come back for another session whenever possible. But the few things that I wanted to know was a lot of people wanted to know how do you produce brigas, the fast brigas. If you can demonstrate some aspects, that some exercise that could lead them to doing that. That's one. The other thing is, I asked you about a composition. You have heavy sangadis in our music, right? So how do you handle, and when do you know your optimum perfection level? How do you perfect something? How do you know that you are getting to the perfection? So can you showed the 4 ways that you think mentally. So can you show these 2?
Okay. So I'll answer your last question first. So we, as you said, we have a lot of words in every single composition, and how to handle that. And the tonal quality is, as Sanjeev ji just now said, as so many other things, it's very subjective. Which tone, there is always the conundrum between which tone you want to sound like and which tone is the correct optimum tone for your voice. Which volume and how much pressure is conducive for your voice is always going to be subjective. So for us to find that optimum, what I had to do was, so this is something, it seems cumbersome. Let's say I know about close to 2,000 songs, and I've learned about 2,000 songs. So how do I go about fixing each one of those? Because my pronunciation, I understood that the pronunciation and the voice pressure, they have a really good connection. So how to counter that? What I had to do was take each and every syllable, each and every single letter in every single one of those compositions, and sing it with different voice vocalizations. Like as in, let's say, so you wanted me to demonstrate what I used to do before. Meru sama meru sama dire varre Vire Juta Amurara Maha. And this is wrong for my voice, not just because of the pressure, the excessive pressure that I'm applying. It's also wrong because I'm not pronouncing the words as they should be to achieve best tonal quality for my voice today. So what I had to do is Meru Sama, and basically something that we have to understand as Carnatic musicians is the space here that we never use because of the pressure that we are used to giving in for each and every single swaram. It's all constricted. All see the whole area here and the nasality. When we there is a popular misunderstanding amongst Carnatic music students or even listeners and even performers about what I mean by nasality. It's not it's it's the pushing out of. It's basically the exhaling, like how Neil showed us sometime back. It's the exhaling of each and every note, and that differs. I found out this differs from each ragam, from each kriti, from each song, and for each and every syllable, depending on which note the syllable is. The letter ma or the me should have a different way of producing sound if it is on a different note for that ragam, because we are so much into adherence of the rules and all the excessive rules for each and every one of these ragams. So this is the only way I found out to counter that. meru samana meru. When I sing, I can actually feel the sound travel between these areas. Meru samana meru samana. The re, var, the both are the syllables are ra, but the re comes with a little bit more of nasality and a little bit of pressure from here. The re, var, a lot more open and free, uncontrolled sound, more relaxed. Var, ragu, and another ragu, gu, vi, re, a little bit of here and a lot more of pushing from here, but no control. Vi, re, ju, ta. And another thing that you asked me before about my tongue, one thing which helps me to manage my voice is the more I go up, I sing. I bring out a lot more of nasality, and also I imagine the sound coming from the other end, the other tip of my tongue. So the more fast I want to go, this sounds like a purer sound. See, each one for himself, about how you choose to sound, and there is always the way this is how I want to sound, and this will not affect my voice. And you try to bridge that gap. The difference between sometimes when I feel like pushing the tongue out a little bit more, it's more for projection rather than achieving perfection. The pressure, the voice gets pushed out because I'm not controlling it. I'm just letting out the air so easily, probably. So this does not work for me always. What I do is I get a lot more control here because I've worked on this, and I think this applies as minimal as pressure possible to my vocal cords. Without controlling it, as much as losing control. I jokingly tell my students, the more you practice this, the more you understand this, you will gain control over not controlling your voice. The more you lose your voice and lose control over your voice, you will have a mental control over what you're going to sing. So this all starts with the other layer of, it's all in the mind. It's about understanding how the voice is traversing, how it's working. The more we look inside, it's much easier to understand what is the optimum levels of working with the voice. So this
Thanks
syllable, yeah, let me just one more
quickly.
sentence.
You want just 30 seconds of a Brigha demonstration, and we'll wind up.
Okay. Brighas, well, we have a lot of practices, and I'm sure Sanjeev ji also has a million practice techniques for Brighas. There are very specific so all these, this will help you to sing. So, what else? I also try this gentize, but with 8 or 16 of each swarams. This kind of helps me to move between swarams, especially while I'm singing swarams. This helps me to go back and forth with very less pressure on the voice.
I know Sanjeev ji also does a lot of those, so I know that works. Wonderful, wonderful session. I would like to again thank, I know it's extremely late in India. I would like to once again thank you all. I know I would like to go on with a lot more, but I will have to curtail my exuberance and also the exuberance of all our viewers at the stage. Thank you, Sridharan ji. I'm sorry I've taken you, pushed you to midnight beyond your routine, disciplined lifestyle. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
And thank you, Balamurali, for such a wonderful session. Sanjeev ji, it was such a beautiful experience. And Neil, I know he has taken, I had taken one hour of his time, but now I had stretched it way beyond his time. So I thank Neil for joining us. And I think he's also an example of someone who has battled COVID to be where he is. So you still, those who are worried that, COVID might do something to your life or voice, don't worry. There's a positive expert here who has come out of it successfully and he's retained his voice. Nothing has happened to his voice. So he's still singing well, and we'll all be fine. We'll all battle this phase also. Enjoy, stay safe. Thank you.
Thanks, sir.
Thanks. Thank you.
Thanks, sir.